Kenji is the newest legendary brawler coming to Brawl Stars, and that means we've had 3 legendaries just this year. That is insane. Kenji is a highly skilled samurai that runs a sushi restaurant inside Star Park with his family. He lives a good life these days, but there's clearly something about his past that he doesn't want people to know about. But apparently his sushi is so good that it keeps everyone plenty distracted from asking him about it.
Wasabi! Wasabi! Ora, 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 ora.
Kenji's main attack is Dash and Slash. Every time Kenji attacks, he switches back and forth between 2 different main attacks. The first attack is a dashing attack, very similar to Mortis's main attack, and the next attack is a wide-range slash, very similar to BB's main attack. Then he goes back and forth between dashing and slashing. Now the dash obviously gives him a lot of mobility, but it only deals half the damage of the slash. Now if Kenji ever dies or respawns or something like that, he will start off with his dash even if he was about to slash beforehand. It's a really unique mechanic, but it's actually a really simple attack and a lot of fun to play around with. Kenji's super is Slashimi. Kenji tosses a fish into the air and then cuts through it with 2 huge slashes in the shape of an X. Anything in the path will take damage, and anything that's right in the center of the X will take damage from both slashes instead of just one. Now, as soon as Kenji throws his fish, he can disappear and cannot be hit by anything until he's completely finished using his super and is back on the map. Surprisingly, if he's moving in a direction as he uses his super, he will return close to the spot where he used it, but a little bit more forward in the direction he was moving. So you can actually move in the opposite direction you want to and then throw so that you can be a little bit further back and out of harm's way when you use it. Another interesting thing about this super is that it will go through any wall, but you can't use it to go outside of the map. The reticle actually won't go past the edge of the map, so it might be harder to hit enemies that are moving alongside the map's edges, and that might be a strategy to try and counter Kenji, because if you're by the edge of a map, you at least will not take double the damage. Now Kenji's first gadget is Dashy Dash. When his gadget is activated, Kenji will only dash with his main attack for the next 3 seconds. So he basically becomes a weaker Mortis with a really fast reload speed. Now the most dashes I've been able to get out of using this gadget is 5, and that actually covers quite a bit of ground. Kenji's second gadget is Hosomaki Healing. This gadget is used to instantly heal 75% of the damage that Kenji has received over the last 3 seconds. For example, if Kenji takes 1000 damage in 3 seconds, then this gadget will immediately heal 750 health. So if Kenji has 7600 health, the most health he can technically recover with this gadget is just under 5700 HP. That is actually kind of insane. And timing this right is like just really going to be helpful for him. It's insane. Kenji's first star power is Studied the Blade. This star power increases the ranges of both slashes from his super by 30%. Now Kenji's super already has a decently large area, so this star power makes his super super easy to land. That being said, since it only increases the length of the attack, catching somebody right in the middle of the X won't be any easier or more difficult with this star power equipped. Kenji's second star power is Nagiri Nemesis. With this star power equipped, if Kenji can go 5 seconds without taking any damage, he'll receive a shield that prevents 90% of the damage dealt from the next attack that hits him. So if that's like an attack with lots of little projectiles like Colt, then that's almost nothing. But if it's a shot like from Piper at max range, that's really good. This is very similar to Fang's Divine Soul star power. The difference between the two is that Kenji's provides a much stronger shield, but he only gets it if he can totally avoid damage for 5 seconds, while Fang's shield activates whether he's taking damage or not. Now Kenji also has a very special trait. He is now the second brawler in the game, along with Edgar, that heals himself every time he deals damage to enemies. 35% of damage to be exact. Now this goes for each of his main attacks as well as his super, and I think this trait is going to make all the difference for Kenji, since he's probably going to take a lot of damage trying to get close to an enemy, but as soon as he can hit them just once, he'll absolutely be able to turn some 1v1s around. Now it's time to put Kenji's abilities to the test with the Brawler Olympics and compare him to every other brawler in the game. As always, we'll start with his worst test and work our way up to his best. Then we'll talk about how good he'll be in all the game modes, and then reveal all of his voice lines, and you gotta listen to him. First up is the 3 attack kill test. Now Kenji deals 1000 damage with his dash and 2000 damage with the slash. So if you go with slash dash slash, then you deal 5000 damage. But since the dash is actually going to be first, you're likely to deal 4,000 damage more often than not. With 5,000 damage being the highest possible, Kenji still only gets 81st place and can take out 8 brawlers in the game with 3 ammo. 81st out of 84 brawlers. That's not super good. Next is the attack range test. Now, whether Kenji is dashing or slashing, his attack range is exactly the same. They both stretch across 3 1/3 tiles. So he ties with BB and El Primo for 76th place. Next is the supercharge test. Not only is the damage cut in half if Kenji is dashing, but his supercharge rate is cut in half as well. So it takes 7 dashes to fully charge his super and only 4 slashes to charge it. But because he has to switch every attack, he just alternates as fast as possible and charges it in 5 hits. It takes Kenji 3.1 seconds to charge his super, so he ties with 5 other brawlers for 57th place. Thank goodness he does not charge his super any faster than that, because it's a strong super. Next is the 1 second DPS test. Now, Kenji first has to switch to his slash because after he uses his super, he barely has enough time to get 1 main attack off before his 1 second is up. He deals 7,200 damage in 1 second, so Kenji ties with Doug for 48th place, getting close to the middle here. Next, we have the auto aim test. Now, Kenji's slash is pretty much instant, so as long as he can reach a target with it, he'll be able to hit them just by auto aiming. His dash does take some more time to actually get to the enemies, so he can only aim that from 3 tiles away and deals 1,000 damage, but the slash can easily be auto aimed from 4 tiles away and it deals 2,000 damage. So he ties with RT and Bonnie for 45th place. Next is the assassin test. Now, Kenji deals damage the quickest by hitting the boss with his super, using a dash and slash to recharge the super, and then repeating the cycle. He's able to hit the boss with 2 attacks and 2 supers within 3 seconds, and that totals 13,400 damage, which puts him in 43rd place. Next is the swarm test, and from here on out, he's better than half of the brawlers in the game. With some very precise aiming, Kenji uses his first star power to take out all of the bots with only 2 supers, since only 1 slash deals enough damage to take out a bot. He defeats the swarm in 4.2 seconds and ties with Mo and Melody for 34th place. Next is the boss test. It takes Kenji a while to charge up the first super, but just as we saw in the assassin test, it only takes 2 hits from Kenji's main attack to recharge his super after he uses a super and chain them until the boss is gone. He defeats the boss in 33 seconds, which puts him in 32nd place out of the 84 brawlers in the game. Next, we have the survival test, and this is the only test where Kenji's second star power and his second gadget actually provide some value. His star power only takes 1 shot from the boss since he can't go another 5 seconds without taking damage, but with perfect timing, he can use his gadget to recover health lost from 3 of the sniper bot's bullets. He survives for 30.6 seconds, so he gets 28th place. He could have done better if he could actually attack the sniper bot to heal off of it, but you can't kill the sniper bot in this test, so that's not allowed. I think his survivability is going to be much better than this test actually suggests. Next is the splash test. Now, Kenji starts out by using a super to deal some good damage to most of the boxes. Since he has to dash every other attack, it takes him a moment to get to the right positions in order to hit as many boxes as possible with his slashes. He completes the splash test in 7 seconds, and that puts him in 24th place. Next is the super range test. Now, since the X shape of Kenji's super obviously reaches further than the center of his reticle, I actually had to bring the ruler down to the furthest point of his attack in order to measure it. The bottom corner of his super reaches 11 2/3 tiles, and that ties him with Brock for 22nd place. Keep in mind, though, that if he is actually attacking somebody at an exact diagonal, he can technically reach a little bit further. Next is the super damage test. Each slash from Kenji's super deals 2,600 damage. So if he can catch an enemy in the center of the 2 paths, which is not that difficult to do, they will both hit for a total of 5,200 damage, which is enough to tie with Nani for 22nd place. And Nani, oof, that's a big super from Nani, right? Like, this is a high damaging super. Next is the area test. Now, it didn't make sense to add both of Kenji's main attacks together, but I will show you that his dash only breaks 10 skulls, while his slash is able to break 32 skulls, but his super can break 72 skulls. Neither of his gadgets can break any skulls, so Kenji breaks a total of 104 skulls, and he ties with Mandy for 22nd place. Keep that in mind, Mandy with a super that can last like super forever. Now, for the box test, both of Kenji's main attacks can slice through any number of boxes, as we saw saw in the splash test. In the box test specifically, each of his attacks can hit every box in the same group at the same time. So he's able to rack up the power cubes pretty quickly. He completes the box test in 30.3 seconds, which puts him in 16th place and suggests he's going to be pretty good at ramping up in Showdown. Now for the reload test, Kenji has a very fast reload speed, but his unload speed and cooldown speed seem to almost take as much time as reloading, especially when he's dashing. This is actually very similar to how Mortis's reloads actually work. He's still able to reload 10 shots in only 11.3 seconds. That puts him in 12th place, a very fast reload speed. Next is the race test. Kenji already has a very fast movement speed, and he's also gets some value out of his first gadget for this test, okay? Now he starts the race off by dashing forward 5 times, and he finishes the race before his gadget even has enough time to cool down. I thought about using his super to cross the finish line to save some time, but since he goes back to the spot where he used it from, it didn't really make sense to use it at all. He completes the race test in 7.5 seconds and gets 8th place. Now Kenji mostly has average rankings in these tests, but I don't know that these tests are actually the best to reflect how good he's going to be because of his healing. So let's talk about how strong I think he's going to be in each of the game modes. First up, we got Gem Grab, and then I'm going to go with the B tier. Kenji doesn't really have the range to keep a lot of map control, and he's way too much of a close range brawler to be carrying gems. Now, if he could scoop up some gems with his super and then like teleport away, then I would have put him higher, but he can't pick anything up while using the super, so it won't be useful for stealing gems and escaping. With that being said though, he does have a dash, and if he is able to take somebody out, then he can use his first gadget to quickly dash to safety. But those dashing attacks are just really weak. So yeah, I feel like I can't give him higher than B tier, even though I think he's gonna be pretty strong. For Brawl Ball, we're gonna go with A tier. Kenji will definitely be better in Brawl Ball because of his mobility and, more importantly, his survivability. He does have to use his ammo in order to dash around, but his reload speed is fast enough that he won't really have trouble dashing forward and shooting the ball. His super is also really great for opening up the goal and setting his teammates up for a score because he can throw it over walls, kill them, and then teleport right back behind the walls. It's really good. For Heist, I gotta give F tier, like maybe C tier, but I don't think he's gonna be that great in Heist. He does not deal the damage that he needs to over a long period of time in order to be good at Heist, and his range is very short. He's going to be bad at Heist for the same reason that Mortis is, right? Even when you consider his super, which can do a lot of damage from a distance safely, I still think his super is going to be better for using it on an enemy brawler that's directly on top of the safe. Unfortunately, I got to give him the F tier for Heist. For Bounty, we're going to go with B tier. Definitely map dependent here. He might struggle in the game of Bounty just because of how short his range is, but with him being able to dash and his survivability is like actually really good, I think it's going to be possible for him to get close to enemies and take them out. He's going to be kind of like Edgar, you know, not super great in high competitive play, but definitely useful in lower trophies. If he's ever able to charge his super, I do think he's gonna like just be such a great attack for taking out brawlers very safely. But yeah, I'm gonna go with B tier. For Hot Zone, we're gonna go with B tier as well. He doesn't have as much range as most brawlers that sit in the Hot Zone. Kenji should still be able to put constant pressure on the zone just because of how fast he can attack. In like, you know, even if he dies, it's not that big of a deal. His super will also easily clear the entire zone if he has his first star power equipped. And if Kenji has a healer on his team, combined with all the healing he can do himself, I could see it being very difficult to get Kenji out of the zone. I'm hesitant to give him A tier, so we'll go with B tier for Hot Zone. On maps with a single zone where lots of brawlers fight over that one location, I think he's not going to be as good as maps where there are 2 zones and it's going to be more frequently that he can actually be able to 1v1 people. 1v1ing is definitely going to be his specialty. Next, we have Knockout. And with how passive most knockout matches are, I think that Kenji's second star power and his second gadget are going to provide tons of value once the smoke starts to close in on everyone. I also think that if Kenji is ever in a one-on-one situation, those same abilities are going to allow him to win most situations. And of course, his super is a very safe way to take enemies out from a distance or from hiding behind walls. So it's actually pretty perfect for this game mode. I'm going to give him S tier and Knockout. That might be a little bit generous. Maybe A tier makes more sense, but he's going to be strong. Next, we have Solo Showdown, and I'm giving him A tier for Solo Showdown. Kenji may not get a lot of kills in this mode, but I think he's going to be really good at getting himself out of tight situations. And his super is also really good for surprise attacks, especially while he's hiding in a bush, right? And then if he's able to survive until just the last 1 or 2 brawlers, he's going to have a pretty good chance at getting first as long as he has some power cubes. So I think A tier for Solo Showdown makes sense. And we'll give him A tier for Duo Showdown as well. And he might even be slightly better in Duo Showdown, mostly because his attacks can easily hit more than one target at a time, and the more damage dealt to enemies means more healing for Kenji. Using his gadgets and dashes to escape is also a lot more useful in Duo Showdown because sometimes you only need to avoid dying for like 15 seconds before your teammate respawns. Honestly, I'm super excited to play Kenji. I want to know what you guys think of him. Why don't you think about that while you listen to all of his awesome voice lines? And subscribe for future sneak peeks.
Brave Fury! Samurai Slash! Tuna time! Ora, 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 ora! Fall 7 times and stand up 8. Sliced and diced. Vengeance is all I have left. I can smell the sakura. I have found the way of the samurai. Life is like death, except different. Even monkeys fall from trees. My brain never forgets a brawler. Impressive. My shame is great. I do not seek revenge. I only seek justice. Silence speaks. Shouting whispers. I have no honor. 身から出たサビ、抜き差しならぬ。マジで The frog in the well knows nothing of the ocean. The weak are meat. The strong eat. One braid, many brawlers. Brawler, sashimi style. Justice has been served. My knife, your life. You're no match for my braid. Death by tofu. 豆腐の角に頭がぶつけて死んじまえ I'm on a sushi roll! I am not worthy! Chef Special! Victory Roll! 乾杯! やばい Time to chop and drop! Only my heart is stronger than my braid! Loyalty and duty! Wasabi! I fear nothing! 地金が出る担当特入 Wasabi!